And as I look around this room, I see the people it's going to go to, and it makes me excited. It makes me really happy to think about it. Just, faith is built on people, and then we transition, and it's built on a different set of people. And I don't know what's going on in your life right now. I don't know what struggles you deal with. I have zero clue for the majority of you what God might be teaching you or what struggles you might have. But I know God has a purpose for you, and I know it's a good one. So I don't want any thought in your head that says I'm worthless, I don't have a point in life, I don't have purpose, people don't like me, I struggle socially, so no one's ever going to be my buddy, or I'm never going to get married. Like, I've had all those thoughts in my life. I'm not just telling you, you think it. I think it on a regular basis. I think that I have no worth. But I just want to encourage you, you do. You have so much worth, and God's given it to you. And what I said earlier was you've got this idea that I'm trying to build out in this group. Good vibes, real people, one purpose. When I think about good vibes, I don't just think about nice little chandeliers, a good brick wall canvas that shows that we're trying to be hipster a little bit. Like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a vibe where you feel comfortable, where you feel accepted. You feel accepted. I mean, there's so much judgment that's passed around on a regular basis. I can tell you about all the years where Matt Rose being Matt Rose looks stupid on a regular basis. I mean, think about it in your life. How often do you feel judged? Maybe it's an activity you regularly participate in. Maybe it's a thought process that you've had from a young age that you're trying to shift, but you're having a hard time shifting. And when you walk into a different venue, you feel like people are staring right at you and they know all of the things in your brain. You struggle to find the vibe of acceptance. And if you have your phones with Bibles on them that's not so far back in the recesses of your phone that you can't find it, I'd encourage you to go to Matthew chapter 9. And there's a story that God's been really working on me with. It's about this woman. It says this in verse 20, and behold, a woman who had suffered from a discharge of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. As I think about this woman, there's a reality because of the struggle that she had, the physical ailment that she had back in the day. You see, back then they didn't have normal plumbing. They didn't have the stuff that we have. And so back then, cleanliness was a huge priority. It was a huge priority in the ancient world. And so when you had a struggle like that, you were considered by the religious system at the time unclean. And so this woman, having this situation for 12 years, would have been considered unclean. Now, unclean doesn't just mean that they look at you and say you're unclean. You are excised socially from any circle that you might be in. You were socially disconnected. And as I look at that woman, as I think about that story, the reality that she was unclean, I think about my last 12 years in life. I'm 31 now. I'm getting older. Don't judge me. I have some wrinkles. I've got some stuff going on that I don't want going on. My back hurts worse than it used to. But I got into CrossFit, so it's good. I'm not paying into the jar for that. Guys, it's funny. They make me pay into a jar when I talk about CrossFit, because everybody who does CrossFit talks about CrossFit on a regular basis. But I'm not where I used to be. But over the past 12 years, I think about my struggle with acceptance. I'm a kind of awkward guy. You might have figured that out by now, but I remember when I started college. How many of you were in college? You just shoot up your hand? Some of you guys. When I went to college, I realized for the first time that what my mama said about me wasn't necessarily the truth about me. Anyone witnesses in here? What your mama says isn't always true. She loves you. She's supposed to. But when you get into a college, they tell you how it really is. The little quirks about your personality, the things, the systems that you built your entire life that now all of a sudden, they don't work anymore. You see, my boldness, I call it boldness. Other people would call it a foot in my mouth, right? My boldness, that's what I'm calling it. Sometimes we can have confidence in the things that we struggle with. But my boldness often got me in trouble. And so when I got to college and I'm staying in dorm rooms, cooped up with a bunch of different people that I didn't know, I realized some things about myself. And I didn't get a vibe of acceptance on a regular basis, but it wasn't until I found a group of people. Everybody say people. People. You gotta find your people. Yeah. It wasn't until I found a group of people that didn't care about the things that I struggled with, but could look past them knowing that God had placed potential in me, even though they couldn't see it, and I didn't know what it was yet. But God's placed potential in each one of you. It's real potential. It's not fake potential. It's not stuff that your mommy tells you to make you feel better. It's stuff that really exists. Like inside of you, God has placed a unique gifting. It can't be replaced by anything else. God has placed it in you. And if you have a little bit of faith, if you find the right people, then you're gonna be in a place where it'll come out. Yeah. Like, that's the struggle. Finding the right people, finding acceptance. And when I found that in college, I started to express different aspects of myself that I'd never expressed before. I started to see things about myself I'd never seen before. Once I found acceptance, there was a level where things changed. And I felt more comfortable in my own skin. And it's not really until you're comfortable in your own skin that you can start to see what God really wants to do in you and through you. That's just the reality. You've got to find acceptance. I want this group to be about acceptance. Regardless of what you've done. I'm tired of freaking judgment all over the church. You feel like here's what you don't know about this. This woman in another text in Luke and in Mark, there's a crowd that's preventing her necessarily from getting to Jesus. And since she's unclean, you know she's on the outside of the crowd. And so often in my life, I felt like I'm on the outside of a crowd and I'm trying to get my way in. I'm tired of that. I don't want this group to be that. Yeah. I don't care if you struggle with a sin. I don't care if people at church told you weren't accepted by God because of your lifestyle. I don't care about any of that. Because all it takes is a little bit of faith to get where God wants you to be. Y'all are laughing because y'all know the end of the story. So this woman. Everybody say this woman.
This woman.
Don't record that part. This woman, she goes to Jesus. And here's what it says. She had suffered a discharge of blood for 12 years. She came up behind him. It's interesting that she came up behind him. You could tell she was ashamed of something that she was doing, or maybe her uncleanness because of her struggle. Came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. And I was telling Jordan earlier this week, I thought it was so poetic that someone at the fringe of society, all she had to do was touch the fringe of his garment to do something, to change her life. And this is what it says. Jesus turned. And seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter. Your faith has made you well." It was acceptance that she needed. She had been cast out 12 years of her life. And it wasn't an effective thing for her. It probably made her feel bad. Probably made her feel frustrated. She probably just felt lonely. Anyone ever felt lonely in here? Yeah. I don't care if you're around a bunch of people. You could be on top of the social pyramid and still lonely. Yeah. Pit of despair, top of the social pyramid. It still feels the same. You feel by yourself, like no one understands you. I want to be a group of people of acceptance that understands people regardless of whether they're like us. And I look around and I see people different color. I see people different disposition. I see people different clothing styles. Guys, I'm trying with the skinny jeans, and it's not really working. I don't feel comfortable up here. There's a reason I'm not standing up like this. Like, it's too tight. But regardless of how you dress, what you look like, color of your skin, disposition, God loves you, and so we're going to love you. And we're going to accept you. It's about acceptance. But here's the other thing. It's about connection, too. I say good vibes, that's about acceptance. Real people, it's about connection with one another. See, because connection doesn't happen just because you shouldn't sit in the same room as different people. Y'all didn't hear that, right? I think I said sit wrong. Just because you sit in the same room as a bunch of different people, I've realized something. It's shared experience that helps you grow closer to one another. I see people at church, some people attend, some people serve. The ones that serve find a shared experience together. They see the miraculous, they see the mundane, but ultimately they grow closer together. That's what God's building. It's about connection. I think about, again, my last 12 years. My struggle during singleness. Anyone single in here? It's okay. It's a gift. I don't need to tell you that. They're not lying. Singleness is such a gift. Hey, can you raise your hand, sweetie? Oh, my wife is, that's my wife. And as you can see, she's pregnant. She's an amazing lady, but there was a journey before her. She wasn't on the path that I would have chosen. But my struggle with singleness, man, it was so frustrating. Every time I would look at MySpace, that's how old I am. I'd look at MySpace and I'd just stare until I would refresh to see if someone would change something on their MySpace page. Then Facebook came out. I would stare and stare and stare. Then I'd send random messages and I would play little games on Facebook when they came out. And then I would tag somebody in it that I had a crush on to see if they gave me any attention. It didn't work. It never worked. I don't know why I thought it would work. But for some reason, I did it. We do stupid stuff when we're trying to get something because there's a longing in us that can only be fulfilled by something greater than us. I mean, it's so true. But then I found my wife and she was awesome. But the only reason I found her is because we were on a similar path. You see, she wanted to do something in her life, and I wanted to do something in my life, and it was compatible. So the reason you need to find a group of acceptance, this is a church group, by the way, is so that you can be around people who ultimately you might find a connection with. I'm not saying you're going to meet your spouse here. It could happen. You never know. It's about acceptance. It's about connection. And the last thing we talked about is about purpose. Sometimes you've been spending all your time trying to find the right people. It was when I graduated college and went into public accounting. If you're in public accounting, don't judge me for this next statement. I hated it. Public accounting was not my deal. I count tips on my fingers. That's not what you need to do when you're in public accounting. You need to know your math. And I hated it. It was a struggle for me. But the other struggle was socially. Because every night we'd all go out. We'd go out, and the thing that you felt like you had to do, if everybody else was drinking, you had to do it. If everybody else was acting a certain way, you had to do it. And the reason I did it was because I felt like that's what would garner acceptance or connection with those same people. It wasn't my people, though. And so here, I'm not saying you can't do certain things. I'm not saying that everything like that's bad. What I am saying is you need to find a place where people aren't going to judge you for what you do and what you won't do. You need to find acceptance, connection, and purpose. But when you come into a group like this, or any group, if you're just sitting around hanging out, you're not going to find what you're looking for. Because often God's moving. God doesn't really stop that often. I've realized that about God. He's constantly moving forward. It says His mercies are new every morning. Always moving. So if God's moving, and I want to find purpose that can only be found in God, then I guess I got to be moving. So this group's going to be moving. This group's moving forward. We're going to be in the community. We're going to be in the church next Sunday. We're going to be around. We're going to do stuff. Because groups that follow the Lord do stuff. That's what we're going to be. Acceptance, connection, purpose. That's what I want this group to be about. And here's what I love about this story. Every time I mess with my phone, it pulls up different highlights and stuff like that. Before Jesus said, turn, take heart, your faith has made you well. That's all it took to move from fringe to fringe. She just needed to have faith. And here's what she says. She said to herself, if I only touch His garment, I will be made well. And I will close with this point because I struggled with that. Where in the world did she get the logic? Where did she get the logic that if she just touched His garment, she would be well? I'm sure she heard a little bit about who He was, that Jesus was performing miracles, that He was healing people, that He was going from place to place to place, preaching a new message. I'm sure she had heard of those things. But there was something in her that gave her the logic that if she just touched the fringe of His garment, that she would be healed. And I remembered this passage in Job chapter 26. It says a whole lot of great things about God, that He stretches out the north over empty space, that He hangs the earth on nothing, that He put the clouds together and keeps the rain from falling, that God does everything that is important in this world. And at the end of that statement, it says this, and these are but the fringes of His ways. The fringes of God's ways can change everything about you. And so I want to encourage you today, keep coming. Keep hanging with us because we're going toward Jesus. And it's our one desire to get as close to Him as possible, pushing through the crowd just so we can touch the hem of His garment. If we can just touch the fringe, just picture what God could do with your struggles. Picture what God can do with your social anxiety. Picture what God could do with this group if we just go in that direction. It's about acceptance, connection with one another, and moving in a particular direction, purpose. Good vibes, real people. Good vibes, real people. One purpose. I forgot that. Sorry, guys. That's all I got. Like that is my heart for each one of you. That you would find purpose, that you would find your people, and that you would stop being caved in your head by the judgment that people may have thrown on you in the past, but right now you keep living in shame because it's still there, and what people said about you won't go away. You need to be around a group of people that will help that go away. And as we push toward Jesus, He will push all of your pain away. That's it. That's our heart for this group. And so I want to make a couple real quick things available for you. As we're done here, we're going to hang out a little bit more. You do not have to leave, I don't think. Adam, let me know if they have to leave. So we're going to hang out a little bit more, get to know each other, ask those questions that are on the card. The only way connection's formed is by asking some of those deep questions. Eat pretzels is part of it. And as you leave here, if you have not joined our Instagram account, in fact, if you got your phone, I'd encourage you to go to Instagram right now if you're on Instagram and follow our account, Riverwalk.Downtown. And then as you leave here, if you brought a friend, you're getting some homilies, possibly. Stop by one of these tables on either side, and we'll get you connected either to our church, and then next week, here's the last thing. We're going to keep meeting. We're going to keep doing this. We'll have it pop up again in the future. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. Follow the account and you'll find out. But next week, we're going to keep doing this. It may not be this big, but I'd love for all of you to be able to join us. We're going to be at Elevation Riverwalk, 604 Sale River Road. It's a little bit closer to you guys who are in Charlotte. So stop, connect with someone at one of the tables, connect with me, connect with anybody who looks like they have a smile on their face. Because we're going to be about acceptance, connection, and purpose. All right, guys. I love y'all. We don't have any more worship songs. Y'all hang out. Y'all can stand back up. God, I thank you so much for who you are, what you've done in Jesus Christ. God, I pray that as we find acceptance in this group, as we seek connection in this group, that ultimately we would find our purpose that's in you. God, all your purposes for us, we can know if we would just seek you. And you can be found. You can be found in your word. You can be found in this group. You can be found in your church. God, you can be found in random locations, but it takes a little bit of faith. And so let every single person in here, God, if we can just shift our disposition a little bit so we can reach out and touch the fringe of Jesus' garment so that we can be healed of our infirmities, of our struggles, of our pain, of our anxieties. And God, step into a life that is abundant and peaceful. It's in Jesus' name that we pray, and all God's people shouted. Amen. Thank you guys so much for being here.